Hughes, immediate past chair of the Guild. Delighted to have a topic to share with you today around working with tools. One of my experiences as I progress my career has been, unfortunately, that ensuring that we get the right tool for the job at the right time. And I hope with this webinar it will give some of you some pointers and provide some information. Please do ask questions using the chat function during the webinar. If possible, please just mute any lines and turn your webcam off just for help with the bandwidth, etc. So as I say, welcome to this webinar straight after the Easter weekend. And it's my great pleasure to introduce a colleague of mine, Jorge, who's going to take us through from the DeWalt, working with DeWalt tools, and particularly how they can help in productivity and safety. We're also joined by a couple of other colleagues who will be able to support answering any questions that we can't. So welcome also to Nate and Derek. So with that, we're just coming up to 5 past the hour, so I think we'll kick off. And over to you, Jorge, if you'd like to carry on with your presentation.
Yep. No, thank you so much, Adam. First of all, thank you to the Guild just for having us on. Really looking forward to spending the next 20-30 minutes just kind of talking about different things that DeWalt can do to kind of help your company be a little safer, a little bit more productive out in the field. We'll go through a handful of slides, really just starting off with who Stanley Black Decker is for those of you that don't know, and then diving into kind of what our vision is as a company moving forward to bring the tool industry into the new world, into the new cordless platforms and battery platforms, and how we're going to take that technology and really drive safety in the future. So with that, once again, thank you so much. We'll start off with a small video, just talking a little bit about Stanley Black Decker as a company. So please feel free to enjoy this.
How does a company like Stanley Black Decker keep moving forward? Well, you might say a number of things, such as our more than 170 years of experience, making us #1 in tools and storage, #2 in commercial electronic security, and one of the world's largest providers of engineered fastening solutions. Or perhaps it's our 25 world-class brands, powered by 52,000 employees in 50 countries, including more than 3,000 engineers and over 13,000 patents. We invented the automatic door, the handheld power drill, the cordless drill, and the retractable steel tape measure, to name just a few. Tools hardworking folks trust every day, in space, the ocean, and right next door. Billions of our engineered fasteners are used in millions of smartphones, cars, and trucks. Our security systems protect over 500,000 buildings, and our healthcare solutions help patients in nearly 20,000 healthcare facilities. Our creative and winning culture has delivered thousands of product innovations, and our unique processes are keeping us focused on what is truly important: building a better tomorrow. These numbers all add up to one company, dedicated to serving each and every customer with solutions that help millions of people excel every day.
So once again, thank you so much for having us on today. As you saw from the video, so we are Stanley Black Decker as a company. We're broken up into 3 different divisions: tools and storage, industrial, and security. These are all the different brands that we carry. A lot of these you'll recognize, like the Stanley or the DeWalt. Most recently acquired is the Craftsman line or the Proto. within our hand tool line, but there's plenty of companies that reside within Stanley Black and Decker that really makes us a very diverse company that we can really fulfill the full needs of any tool company or construction company moving forward. Obviously, today we're going to be focused more on the tools and storage side. And the reason for that is that DeWalt is probably, or is the largest brand in the world's largest tool company. And with that, we have the largest battery platform where we generate sales in over 160 countries worldwide. And the reason that we focus so much on cordless is because cordless really is the future. So we're starting to get into technology of a 60 volt technology where you can work in remote places such as this, where there isn't electricity available and it really isn't easy access to get generators to these places. So we're trying to provide you a tool that you can perform your regular duties, but still have the power of a corded unit, but giving you the freedom of a cordless unit. One of the things that we'll dive into today with going to cordless is really just reducing the need for extension cords, reducing shock hazards, and really reducing gas emissions. One of the things that DeWalt does really well is by marking our tools that are very safety focused. So you'll see this logo up in the upper right where it says perform and protect. So any DeWalt tool that is extremely safety focused and has a safety feature built into it will have this perform and protect logo on it. Now, the three main categories that we focus on protecting your craft and your employees is either through dust, through control, or through vibration. Obviously, OSHA has done a pretty big deal on controlling dust and limiting silica exposure, which I know is something that's important to all of us. Control, whether it's within our drill platforms, within our grinders, or even within our rotary hammers as well, to torque control, to reduce any kind of wrist injuries, to reduce any kind of wheels being exploded on a grinder, or even vibration for that matter. Once again, going back to our rotary hammers to make sure that we reduce user fatigue and make sure that the craft person is really just fully engaged the entire time. So the first part that we'll dive into is actually going to be one of our control features. And I'll actually ask Nate Pellerin, one of our product teams, director of product, to hop on and talk a little bit about our E-clutch and our kickback brake features.
Hey, thanks, Jorge. And good morning, good afternoon to everyone on the call. One of the great things about our grinders is, we work with users like yourself out in the field, and kickback is a big concern from anyone who uses a grinder. And so when you're doing cutting applications and grinding applications, especially wire wheels, binding up, installing is a big deal. So we originally started with our E-clutch system that would recognize that there was a pinch or a stall that was happening, and it turned the tool off. And other competitors followed with mechanical clutches and other electronic style clutches. The one thing that was left out, though, was that the wheel still had to come to a full stop, and you had to wait for gravity to bring it to that full stop. So as the invention of brakes came for grinders, some other competitors on the market came out with brakes that when you let go of the trigger, you could set the tool down faster, increase productivity. Or I'm sure many of you have seen a grinder get set down a little too quickly and it shoots across the work surface because the wheel touches it, and that's never a good thing. But our kickback brake we are the only ones in the industry to have this. And what it does is it combines with that E-clutch. So it recognizes there's a problem and identifies it. The E-clutch shuts down the tool, and the kickback brake engages automatically and slams that wheel to a stop as quickly as it possibly can. It's less than a second for it to stop it in that type of situation. And what that does is it reduces the momentum back to the user. So rather than have a grinder come flying back at someone and they're having to try to control that, it literally, I'm about a 200-pound guy and my arm will barely move in a kickback situation, even though we've intentionally put it into that. So you can imagine here that this really brings a whole new level of safety to the user. And the best part of it is it happens automatically. It does not require that they do anything, because the last thing anyone's thinking about doing when a grinder starts to kick back on them is to release the trigger to let that wheel stop. It's the tool stops it, and then it allows the user to quickly let go of the trigger, restart it again if they want to, or set the tool down, reset their material or whatever needs to be done to reset it. So something we're pretty proud of, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback from users in the field because it does just offer that next level of user protection that they need.
No, perfect. Thank you, Nate. So with the E-clutch, like I said before, control is one of the biggest things that we really like to focus on within our Perform and Protect line. Control features like this E-clutch are in 37 of our different grinders, 20 of our different rotary hammers, and 10 of our drills. So anti-rotation and just, trying to protect any kind of clutch situation is really key for us. And we're continuing to expand this product and continuing to add it to more tools as we move forward. Another category that I said was dust. Obviously, like I said, trying to control silica and trying to make sure that we're not exposing our craft to any unneeded silica dust. So we have a full line of OSHA compliant solutions where not only do we have the tool, but we have the accessories, the shrouds, and we also have OSHA compliant dust extractors as well. So we have two different extractors that have a greater than 99% efficiency with the HEPA filters that are available. So if you need any kind of OSHA compliant dust collection, we have those options as well. We're also starting to get into lanyard ready product as well. So anytime you're working at height, or I know a lot of times for the pipeline industry working in a deep well, you have to lanyard off your product to make sure that you're not hitting anyone underneath. So we are starting to add this to a lot of our cordless and a lot of our corded product. One of the reasons that a lot of people like to work with DeWalt is, aside from just the products that we come out with, is really just the team that you get to work with. We have an entire field team across the world that you can work with, that we can come on site, do safety trainings, do product testing, and then we also help with any kind of digital support as well. We also have an amazing service center network, and as well as a service website that you can always go to just to make sure. Part of being safe is making sure that your tool is in proper working order and making sure that it's working up to spec. So we have tons of resources for anyone in the field to make sure that those tools are working up to that level. So one of the things that I wanted to cover next is the on-site safety training. So I took a couple of slides from some previous safety trainings that we've done just to kind of walk you through what we try our messaging is and what we try to show the craft when we're out in the field. So this was one that obviously we were focused specifically on metalworking. We can tailor the safety training based on whatever your needs are. Obviously today I felt like with the guild, it probably would make a little bit more sense to focus on grinders and abrasives. So we would start off with talking about both, right? So we'll start off with the tool side of it. And on the tool side, there's tons of different things that we can do to make sure that a grinder is safe or safer to operate, really. So one, making sure that there's not a lock-on switch, making sure that you power off your grinder, unplugging it before you change any accessories. You don't want to accidentally hit a trigger, whether you're changing a cutting blade or a grinding wheel. Knowing your tool, knowing what kind of protections it has, not like Nate talked about, we have a dual clutch protection. Some of our competitors also have some different protections in place. So understanding what your tool has and what it can and cannot do is extremely important. Understanding if it does have a kickback brake, how does that kickback brake work and how is it going to react? So that way you can be prepared. So if it does engage, you know what to expect and you know how to position your body appropriately for that. Some of our tools have a power loss reset on them. So if for any reason a grinder is a gentleman or lady is working with a grinder and it accidentally becomes unplugged, if someone goes to randomly plug it back in while they're still holding the trigger down. Some of our brushless grinders have the equipment in them that it will not turn the grinder on immediately. It will actually flash red and let the user know you lost power, but it has been re-engaged. So you actually have to recycle your switch, so that way you're aware of what's coming back on. If there's a dust ejection system that you need to use, what's the best option for you? And then we obviously make, various different types of handles. So make standard plastic handles, but we also make anti-vibration handles, which can make it more comfortable. It can help you work a little bit longer as well. And then adjusting your guard. Obviously, you can see here, we make various different types of guards. So making sure that you have the right guard for the right product and making sure that you're applying it appropriately. Also for your industry is knowing what kind of tools are out there for you. So this is, one of the things I always say to customers when I talk with them is always get with your local rep and always try and talk with them on what the best needs are for you. If you open up our catalog and you go through the first 5-6 pages, it could be 5-6 pages of all drills, but every single one of them is completely different and tailored for something different. So we make a lot of tools that are specific to an industry. This is one example where we actually make a 9-inch pipeline grinder designed specifically for the pipeline industry. And the reason for that is obviously we know that you're doing big bevels and big grinding, big sweeping motions to where a lot of the users really like to palm the head of the grinder. So what we did is we added a cover over the gear case to where it is UL approved as a handle, to where the user still has 2 hands on the grinder at one time, but can still use this grinder and still remain compliant with all safety guidelines. Once again, we're more than just a power tool company, so we do like to focus on a lot of the other accessories, such as accessories, hand tools, and storage. So we can also do safety trainings just on the accessory side. So from an accessory standpoint, a lot of people take a grinding wheel, throw it on, begin to work, and they never really look at the information that's on there. So one of the things that I like to review with a lot of my customers is knowing what information is on there. So starting from the very top, right under product number, you'll see wheel type where it says type 27. This will dictate to your user what type of guard they should be using. So there's a type 1 and a type 27 are the 2 most common types of guards. So knowing that is extremely important. Your max RPMs, you never want to have a grinder that is outspinning your wheel. You want to make sure that your wheel can handle the RPMs of your grinder. And then on the left side, under application, knowing what your wheel is intended for. Is it made for ferrous metal? Is it made for aluminum or stainless? So, making sure you're not cross-contaminating any of the metals. And then the size of the wheel, making sure that you're using the right size with the right grinder. And a lot of that becomes important because we're starting to notify the users a little bit better to say, hey, this is a 6-inch guard that needs a 6-inch wheel. It spins at 9,000 RPMs. So letting you know where you are in that range. And then, like I said, so what you see here is actually a type 1 guard that's made for cutting applications. So this would not be the appropriate guard for this specific wheel. Feel free to ask questions, by the way. I know Nate is on the line and a couple of others. So if there are any questions that you'd like to ask while I go through, please feel free to type in the box and we'll get them answered. We can also talk about hand tools. So making sure something as simple as cutting, which really tends to be a common injury out in the field. Proper use of a cutting tool, making sure you're pulling the knife towards you, keeping your body out of the cutting line, making sure you're always keeping a fixed blade in a holster if you're not using it. Obviously, we don't recommend that you always have a fixed blade. And then when you're done, dispose of any dull blades in a blade container or wrap in thick tape before throwing it away. Also, once again, knowing what's out there and what's available is important. So this is a auto retracting blade that we sell that I know a lot of our customers tend to like. So it has a handful of safety features where the blade auto retracts as soon as it leaves contact with the cutting surface. You can use it left or right-handed. It has a shrink wrap cutter, which is protected, which is the little black piece right there on the front edge. Still accepts any standard utility blade, so you don't have to go out and buy anything fancy or new. And then a tape splitter, and then also has a blade storage on site. And then also lanyard ready with the hang hole at the bottom. We can even go into sockets and drive tools as well. So, you know, a lot of people probably don't think of a socket as something that's a safety feature that, you know, you need to review, but making sure that the wall isn't worn, making sure it's not rounded or cracked. You know, I've seen a handful of injuries where someone will put a socket on an impact and it'll shatter and it can hurt someone. So these are things that we'll review on site and make sure that the craft and the users are checking, making sure that they're checking the wall thickness, making sure you're replacing it when necessary. So the good thing is that once we get out into the field, obviously we love to do these safety trainings. We love to be out in front of the customer and make sure that y'all are getting every bit of information that we have to offer, but also it's a two-way street. So when we do get out in the field, it helps us increase our research and development. It helps us determine, you know, what is the next best thing that we can create to make sure that we're protecting your craft and your workers. So by continuously that cycle and continuously servicing your companies, that's what helps create these partnerships that we're starting here today with the Guild. And then moving forward, we're starting to, you know, get into a digital world. You know, obviously with COVID over the last year has been extremely kind of crazy. And so we're trying to find new ways to make sure that we are training your teams as best as we can. So we've launched 7 videos, anything from tool cleaning to grinder, guard, and wheel installation, talking a little bit about our OSHA Table 1 compliance and dust, talking about our drill clutch settings. So we have these videos available, and we'll post it. We'll have a sheet that we can post after the webinar that will have QR codes that you can go in and scan and watch any of or all of them if you'd like. So, and then we also provide additional training as well. So we use Blue Vault. So if you're looking to get even more information and really just dive in deep into the products that we have and learn a little bit more about best uses, best applications, if you're looking to stay up to date in some of our latest and greatest products that we're coming out with, we can get you signed up on Blue Vault, get you tied to the Guild's primary group, and you can be registered there, and we can train you on there as well. So with that covers most of the safety product. I know typically there's a ton of questions, especially when it comes to tools. So please feel free to work with us. We'd love to help drive any productivity and safety really. And here's my contact information if there's any other additional questions. But feel free to chime in, and if there's anything else that we can do to help you, please let us know. We have a full team here on today. So please let us know what we can do to help.
Thank you very much, Jorge. That was superb. And, you know, for somebody who's been, as many of the people on this call actually have been in the industry sort of 36 years, the amount of accidents, unfortunately, we've seen with kickbacks from grinders or lacerations due to blades trying to, you know, incorrectly be used, etc. So I was really pleased to see those those type of products you were showing, along with also the general range of falling from heights and you know, nuisance like noise and dust, etc. we had one question which Stuart actually answered in the chat, but for everybody, but just in case not people aren't reading the chat, it was yes. I mean, overall, DeWalt is a global brand, so mixture between inches and millimeters, and also CE markings in Europe, etc. can all be absolutely available. I still interested. I went to school and learned metric, and then I came into our industry and learned imperial. So it seems a strange thing that we talk about, inch diameter pipe and millimeter wall thickness, but we seem to do that here in the UK. So obviously, please feel free to put on, take yourself off mute if there's a question or ask anything else on chat. I think. One of the questions we may have wanted to ask was about you mentioned about the grinder guards and whether it's yourself or Nate, but clearly over the years artisans, craftsmen, technicians, whatever language you want to use, have tended to try to interfere, alter, etc. These because that they've often felt them to not be that variable. But you talked about a range of guards we have. Do you want to just tell us a little bit more about the type of things we could get to help them doing their work?
Yeah. So the two main guards that you'll see out there, like I said, are the Type 1 and the Type 27. The Type 27 is going to be typically used in any kind of grinding application, whether it be a flat disc or a grinding wheel. The Type 1 guard is going to be primarily for cutting, which will be focused on any kind of cutting application. Typically, the 6-inch slicer disc or the 4.5-inch slicer disc are the two most common that you'll see there. And then we actually have a third guard that we came out with that actually covers, and I believe it was in the presentation, it covers 270 degrees of the wheel, therefore protecting if for some reason something does happen to that wheel and it does come apart in any kind of way, it reduces the amount of that wheel shatters and explodes and moves out forward. So there's a couple of different options, but typically the most common that you'll see is the Type 27 and the Type 1. But if you're doing any kind of cutting application, that's typically when you really want to dial in and make sure that you're using the proper guard. And
the wonderful image at the beginning of remote working at its best. But going to the cordless, equipment, the batteries, their life, and are they, interchangeable, between different tools, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing that we're very proud of is the fact that we do have the largest battery platform. So 20 volt in the US and I believe 18 volt in the UK is all interchangeable. We've recently launched 60 volt, which is interchangeable down, and you can use the same chargers and use it on 20 volt product. But if you go up to the 60 volt product, you will need to have 60 volt batteries to match. But you can, Nate, I guess if I'm explaining that correctly, you can tailor it down, but you can't go up in batteries. So you will need the 60 volt batteries because it will have a 60 volt motor that really needs the full power in order to get that corded power that people are looking for.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And what we did was we had our 20 volt system for many years, and we knew users needed more power, but we wanted to make sure that when we gave them a larger battery that gave them more power, it was still interchangeable with the large system we'd already built. So that flex volt battery allows you to use it on your 60 volt tools, but then if you need to quickly finish a job and your 20 volt battery's dead, you could take that and put right on your 20 volt tool, use it for that one. Or some people have chosen to use the larger flex volt batteries even on their 20 volt tools because they do offer more runtime with more amp hours.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an incredible concept, isn't it? That not only just batteries can be interchangeable between tools, excellent, but also you can have batteries which can, in effect, change their characteristics by being able to go from the 60 volt and be used in a lower voltage and etc. So that's great. Thank you for that. one of the questions here is about providing actual discs with carbide or diamond tips or blades and drills. So again, just can one of you answer that first?
Yeah, I think Stuart would just answered it. Stuart, if you want to hop on and talk a little bit more about the carbide and diamond tips, feel free. Stuart's our abrasive specialist for the U.S. He has the best knowledge when it comes to abrasives.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. I answered it there in the chat too, but I'll add a little more content to it. So this answers both questions that were just asked about what equipment do you have for cutting pipe and PVC, and then do you provide this for grinding with carbide or diamond tips? So we have, in the US, we have a line of metal cutting diamond wheels under the Lennox brand. It's sub-branded Metal Max, and then in the EU, it's under the DeWalt Extreme brand. And they're multi-material blades. They use a brazed single layer diamond technology where the diamonds are exposed at the edge, and I've yet to find anything they cannot cut. And so that's what I would use for anything that's kind of unusual like that.
Excellent. Thank you, Stuart. And from my own personal recollection of visiting Stanley facility over in Sheffield, obviously Sheffield for us in the UK, a city of steel. There's a wonderful machine there which is actually putting on the Stanley knife blades, tipping them as well for those of you who have any sort of drywall or plasterboard, as we call it, work to do. In fascinating machine for making those blades that bit tougher. I think Will, would you like to ask a question off mute if you want?
Will do. Hi, Will Rickard, Southern Water. Just do a sound check for me.
Yeah, everything good.
Great. Maybe a bit sideways question for you, but the battery tools, grinders, and those sorts of things, really desirable, aren't they? And really useful for anyone who's not in our industry. So I'm thinking security here. When I'm finished at the end of the day, I've got it in the back of the truck or on site somewhere. For instance, a battery powered grinder is the top #1 tool of choice for a thief to steal from us and then use it to break into everything we've got, because padlocks are no longer any use, are they, with those? Got anything coming up or in the future, maybe to sort of look at maybe two-part tools that need something you can take away from it, or special high-tech things, or any recommendations? Because sort of find that we're actually adding a risk here, because we've got this really high-value, amazing stuff that's suddenly very desirable, that we're giving to our employees, and potentially putting them at risk if they've got it parked outside, or are they bringing it into their hallway at night? These sorts of things. What do people do, and anything you can suggest? That was all. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And great question, Will. I guess a little bit of a look forward. In the U.S., we have been piloting a system called Tool Connect Site Manager, and it utilizes Bluetooth technology to do audits and manage your inventory. And part of that, what we found is that if you assign tools in this system to a foreman or a supervisor, they can quickly, at the end of the day, hit a button on their mobile phone or a tablet. It scans the area and tells them that all their tools are returned back to the job box or the van or wherever they're gonna keep the tools. And while it would not stop somebody from picking it up and walking off with it in the middle of the day or something like that, what we found is that just the accountability that someone's in charge of it, and they could easily check for even 50, 100 tools all at one time in a matter of 20 seconds. We had some early pilot locations that were losing 30 to 40% of their tools every time they had a job, and they were losing less than 5% because there was accountability and they were doing audits. That system is going to be in the UK and Europe. It will be probably not till sometime late this year, early next year, as we start to work through all of the EU compliance and translations and all of that. But we did have our regular Tool Connect system out there previously, but it's a really new design system is all around inventory management and asset tracking. will it track something and know that, you know, someone grabbed it and it's across town? No, because it needs a Bluetooth to connect to it to be able to know where it is. But just the effort of somebody just checking daily that everything's been returned or that everything's where it's supposed to be seemed to drive all of the right behaviors for you know, the employees, and making sure they're putting things in a place that was safe. So it's kind of our direction right now on that type of effort. We have looked at some things where you maybe remove a pin or like a key, if you will. And what we found was that unless we really marketized it heavily that was the case, in most cases, most of the users thought that someone would still steal the item and then just realize it was useless and throw it in the trash. So it wouldn't actually stop it from being stolen, because they think that it worked and then get home and go, oh, it doesn't work, and toss it. So we're trying to figure out ways of managing the inventory so that you know where it is and keeping it that way.
Interesting. Yeah, thanks. I hadn't heard about the Bluetooth sort of inventory idea before. Sounds like a sensible idea. Also means that you'll quickly know when anything's gone, so that the chance of the recovery and doing the insurance and everything would be good. I think I'd like some for all of my keys as well, please, if you could do that, because it's only at the end of the week I realise I'm missing a set that I lent to somebody. It sounds like a great idea. And thanks for that answer.
Yeah, and what's great too for a larger company is, let's say I don't know your position. Let's say you're the owner. You can have 4 or 5 job sites. You can actually have all the information coming back to you at your home office and know that everybody did their audit and all your tools are there. Or who's missing what, so you could quickly pick up the phone and tell Adam, hey Adam, your team's missing 2 tools. Where are they? And he can say, well, we can't find them at all. We think someone walked by and took them, or no, it's I moved it to another site to help with another job, so that you can then update the system to know it's somewhere else.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thanks for the question, Will. And yeah, I mean, it was a great question, particularly as on theft and trying to limit that, particularly given as Jorge very well introduced, the overall Stanley Black Decker, which obviously includes a security division as well, and that there are lots of technologies which people keep looking at. We keep looking at crossing over between various equipment or various brands, but it was a good question. It's thought provoking. Norman, you asked one about spares and tools of maintenance. Very simple. I mean, yes is the honest answer. And some of the tools can be bought what we call bare, which means if you've got batteries and you don't necessarily need to buy a whole the whole tool again. But yes, spares are available. I think the bit though is as we mentioned, been a global business, the rollout across the world can be at slightly differing times, and there were some product codes which will be maybe UK specific. The giveaway being GB, but then there are obviously European and other items, to compete with, particularly as translation and CE markings, etc. But yeah, everything's fairly simple, Norman. So thank you for your question. Okay, we're coming up to about 40 minutes now, so thank you very much for my colleagues from SPD for presenting. I say my colleagues because although many of the guild members know us as Pipeline Induction Heat or CRC Evans, we are actually the Stanley Oil and Gas division, falling under industrial, and you saw a couple of our logos when Jorge put up the chart. So please feel free. You got the contact details from the PowerPoint. You can either get hold of anybody if you can't remember who via Kate or Catherine at Guild HQ, and I'm sure on behalf of all my colleagues, we'd be willing to answer any more questions, put you in touch with the right people, and most importantly, try to improve safety across our industry, and particularly in selecting the most appropriate tool for the job in hand. So thank you very much for joining us. Once again, Nate, Jorge, thank you for your presentation, and good afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your Easter week for those still on a bit of leave. Thank you and goodbye.
Wonderful.
thank
Thank
you
you,
again.
everyone.